Hello and welcome back to a year of miracles. We are on lesson 47. So, lesson 47, God is the strength in which I trust. This lesson teaches that true strength comes from God, not from personal effort or external circumstances. When we rely on our own strength, we experience fear, doubt, and exhaustion. But when we trust in God's strength, when we let go of anxiety and embrace peace, knowing that divine power is always supporting us, we don't feel things like fear, doubt, exhaustion, and burnout. And there's a story that I remember that I heard Wayne Dyer talk about, and he was on this track, and there was a guy that twisted his ankle or something like that. I might butcher this. Sorry if I butcher this and you know it. But basically, this guy twisted his ankle and couldn't walk up the hill that they needed to walk up to get back. And so Wayne put this guy over his shoulders, and the whole time he was repeating, God is my strength, God is my strength. And he said to this day that if he had not connected to God and continued to say that God is my strength, he would not have physically been able to lift this guy up that was like nearly his weight up this hill. And so when you hear stories like that, it emphasizes the fact that there is this strength that is unseen that we all have access to, right? Because you can be like, what is God's strength? I don't understand. But we don't, the mind can't comprehend a lot of things. And so we just have to give up this idea. It's really bizarre, right? Because simultaneously, whilst the ego wants to make you feel weak and puny, on the other hand, when you say that God is stronger than the ego is like, what? Who do you think you are? And so you can never bloody win with the ego. Never bloody win. It's always trying to put limitations on you, right? And so this lesson is so powerful because there is a strength. You always hear these success stories as well, where people are down on their knees begging for God's strength, and it's in that moment that they get the breakthroughs, and in that moment that they find the strength that they never knew they had, right? But we don't have to be begging on our knees to get the strength from God, right? Don't let it get to that place where you're literally like your world is falling apart and you have no other option but to turn to God. We're saying that God's source, like consciousness, infinite intelligence, is always available to pull strength from. You don't have to be like, yeah, I don't even know what word I'm trying to say. What's the depths of despair? You don't have to be at the depths of despair to call on that strength. You can call on it for anything.
Yeah. Yeah. So for my notes here, I have that, and it may be repeating some of the stuff that Sammy said. So just to let you know. So ego is force strength. Okay. So ego's strength is illusory, right? Ego's strength, I think I've mentioned this before, where it's like the ego thinks that it has real power. The ego thinks that it has real strength. The ego thinks that it has real control. But it's this forced strength, this forced power, this forced control. And it will always be limited, and it will always lead to fear and exhaustion and burnout. And when you talk about like energy leaks and stuff like that, like it's always going to feel like you barely have enough for what you need or what you want to do. You're always going to feel burnt out. Maybe it will result in you getting sick, you getting, depressed, because there's never enough. There's never enough energy there. There's not really any real strength there, right? It's always going to feel depleted. It's always going to feel hard. It's always going to feel super effortful. But true strength from God, true strength from source, it's always going to be in peace, and it's always going to be in certainty. And it's always going to be from a deep knowing that you are loved and you are supported, right? So it's that everybody has had the moment where it's like this infinite fuel just seems to come from nowhere. It's like you're immersed in a project and you're like 5 minutes ago you thought you needed a coffee and that you wanted a nap, but now all of a sudden it's like boom, and you're just in it. And like there's this energy that seemed to come from the depths of your being or the depths of your soul. And that's available to you and all. It's this like knowing and certainty and trust, right? So I touched on the analogy of like the little like in Google Maps or Apple Maps, the little like guy that you drop into the street or when you're on the street mode and you can only see what's, the buildings around you and like maybe the next street that you could turn on or not turn on. So that's the ego. You can't see the whole picture. The ego never knows the whole picture, right? And so we try to control from this very, not only does it not have real strength or not have real power, but also we're trying to control and we're trying to get strength and get power from this very narrow view when God, source, infinite being, sees the whole picture, sees the whole map, knows exactly what needs to be done to get you from here to where you need to be or to where you desire to be. So the ego can take its claws out of it. The ego doesn't need to pretend to have strength or to pretend to have power because God's source, infinite being, not only is your infinite source of strength and power, but it also knows exactly how to get you to where you need to be in the quickest amount of time that supports everyone and everything involved with love, right? So I have God as your safety net. God sees all, God knows all. So when you can tell when you're an ego, you can tell when you're trying to use ego as your strength or ego as your source because you will feel worry. You will feel concern. You will feel inadequate for what you're trying to do. That is a sure sign that you're in ego. But when you're in God, when you're tapped into the strength of God, when you're tapped into the trust in God's source, your infinite true nature, you know success is inevitable. You know you will get where you need to be. You know you'll have everything delivered to you that you need. You know you'll have the strength. You'll know you'll have the means to get there. And in that, you can rest in peace. And this peace is your birthright. So give your trust to the strength of God so that way you can live more from this place of peace, bliss, love. So I'm just going to add this one little bit because I know I've been there and maybe some of you will resonate. Um, so before I experienced it myself, there was this kind of part of me that thought, oh, well, if I'm just in peace, bliss, and love all the time, then I won't have any motivation to get, to create more, or to get to these other places, or to like have these new experiences. I'll just be like apathetic maybe, but that's not the right word because apathy isn't in bliss and joy, but that's kind of like, I'm content here. But it's quite different. It's you get to be in peace and joy and a sense of contentment where you are, but that actually propels you to have new experiences, to have even more love, more joy. So your reality and the path that you start going on starts reflecting that. And it actually leads you to places you desire to be. It's not about being in the realm of comfort. So then you never go out and create the success that you want, write that book, create that business, make that money. It's actually this infinite fuel that gets you to there effortlessly. So that was kind of a shift that I made because there was this fear of like there was this belief I didn't realize what was there at the time of like, oh, this concern or this not I don't fear isn't it, but it's kind of like, yeah, this fear is driving me, or this discontentment is driving me, or this lack of peace is driving me. But you don't need that to reach these beautiful goals that you have, or these beautiful desires, or these dreams that you have. You don't need to have that. That's from a place of effort. There's an effortless way. Okay, that's my little preach, my preachy preach. Um, so for the longer practice period, you're going to try to do up to 4 practice periods today, 5 minutes each. And you're going to repeat the idea with your eyes closed. God is the strength in which I trust. You're going to find situations in your life you have invested in with fear. You have invested in with fear, and say, God is the strength in which I trust. And then again, you're going to slip past the thoughts of fear and inadequacy and find a place past those thoughts to a place of real safety and peace. You'll know you've reached it because it will feel like peace. Trust the feelings of peace. And then for the shorter practice periods, just repeat the idea as often as you can, and then apply it to anything that arises during the day that feels like a disturbance to your peace.
Amazing. Thank you so much. I loved that you said about that you had a belief because I've had the same, but it's because we've been programmed for so long in the ego or identifying, yeah, as the, you know, the hustle, the grind, the hard work, that when you then step into the effortless being and you're flowing and everything is just like synchronistic and everything's like coming to you and it's all like perfect, like it's literally, it is effortless. And then the sneaky little ego, well, it's like, well, this is too easy. This isn't gonna work, blah, 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 blah. It's just like, honestly, the more I understand, the more I learn, especially through this course, I'm like, what on earth is reality? What on earth is this game we call life? Like, why have we got some demons in our head that we have to conquer to connect back to the essence of who we really are? What sick game is this? It's just wild to me. The ego is always trying to limit you and trying to think that it can't be easy. Me and Karina had a conversation the other day. Oh my goodness, it was about, oh, that was it. I was saying that how I felt like I was stepping into my power and didn't want it to come across too egoic. But when I say my power, it wasn't my power. It was this infinite power flowing through me. And then I was like, oh, but it feels a little bit egoic. And she's like, no, that's your ego. Your ego is trying to make you think it's egoic and it's not egoic. It's just like a trap within a trap. So again, like when you feel this strength, when you feel this power, do not do not feel that you need to suppress it or limit it because you feel because your ego is telling you otherwise. Allow it, right? It's just an expression of source, and any narratives that you hear is just your ego trying to dim your light to make you smaller than you actually are.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well, I was just gonna say there's easy way and there's easy, it sounds complicated, but there's easy ways to tell. And that is when fear comes in, when worry comes in, when condemnation comes in, when all those dense feelings, you know me, I like my little my little Hoberman sphere. I say, if it starts to feel like it's contracting and getting denser, that's a good sign that ego's coming out to play. If it's feeling like woof and it expands, oh, okay, now you're getting back into the truth of your true nature. So that's an easy tell. Does it feel like limitlessness? Does it feel like love? Does it feel like abundance? Or does it feel dense? Does it feel like fear? Does it feel like condemnation? Does it feel like worry? Does it feel like concern?
Yeah, and I love that. And that your little thingy really helped me recognize that. And it's a really simple thing, especially with like, I don't know, but I know I do a lot of this when I'm in ego. And then when I'm more relaxed, I feel like I'm more connected to source. When I was in Bali, I noticed it quite a lot because I felt more expansive out there and I didn't really have any, I wasn't having to face any sort of like anything with family. Like it felt like I was just on a constant holiday just because the energy there and the lifestyle. But my energy, I had connected to source, create, whatever you want to call it, and it felt so much bigger, so much so that when I was walking I would duck and there'd be, these huge signposts. I would duck my head thinking that my head was going to hit this huge signpost. But I was like, what am I noticed myself do it a couple of times and I was like, what am I doing? It's because I had expanded my energy and connected to something far greater than I, that sometimes I forgot I was little me and having a human experience. And I'd like literally go to duck and I was like, that's like another 6 foot higher than me. What am I doing? but like it felt so good at the same time. So there's, like Karina said, there's ways that you can understand where you're dropping into ego. But again, don't fear that power, you know. Don't allow your ego to get its hands on it, right? We're gonna take over the world because the ego will come in with some crazy narratives. But allow yourself to enjoy it and for it to flow through you and it be expressed out of you. Yeah, I love this chat today on this lesson. But have you got anything else before we finish?
That's it.
No. Okay, everyone. Thank you for tuning in, and we will see you tomorrow.